this is, I think, the only round in the playoffs this week where I am not going to do individual preview. And the reason why I'm not doing individual preview in this round is since I have only 2 days to prepare in terms of previewing all these games, and that if I have to do individual preview, I need to do like 2 video per day, and that 2 video per day during a school week is definitely a little bit of a stretch, and that I'm not quite sure exactly I can, of course, try to do that. So instead, I decided to just kind of do what I usually do with my preview, which is talk about all the game in one video. And what I'm going to do in this preview is that I give you guys a little bit more information about this match, whereas it's a little bit different from the traditional regular season preview where I talk about what happened in the last game for both of these teams, and then I give you guys a stats about what happened in these teams during that part of the season. And the reason why I want to give more facts is because these are the playoff games, and I want to kind of elaborate a little bit more into it. And that I'm going to be talking about the Wednesday game first, and then the Thursday game is when I'm going to switch the board and talk about those 2 Thursday game that is going to be happening, including El Tráfico, where, to just save you guys time for watching this video and only want to see the part where I talk about El Tráfico, I will leave a timestamp below in the comments below to show you guys when exactly I start talking about El Tráfico. But to begin the first game of the conference semifinal preview, we have NYCFC versus TFC. So the 5 key things to look out for this game is that the last time both of these teams meet in the playoff, well, it was probably one, if not the most one-sided playoff affair that we have ever seen in MLS playoff history, and that TFC absolutely destroyed NYCFC 7-0 over the 2-legged affair. And the first leg they were able to beat NYCFC 2-0 at home, and then the second leg it was an absolute 5-0 thrashing of NYCFC at Yankee Stadium. And I think that to this day is still the worst loss that NYCFC have suffered at home, and arguably one of the worst loss team has suffered at home in the playoffs. And I have no doubt that it's not going to be anything like that. Like, I would be very surprised if TFC can go to NYCFC and go to not Yankee Stadium, but Citi Field to be able to put on a 5 spot like they did last time. And speaking of Citi Field, the reason why I say it's not Yankee Stadium is that because of the fact that the Yankees, they had a playoff game that was postponed for a day, and that since they couldn't quite get that series done in time where they can, of course, make over the field and make sure that the field is converted back into a soccer dimension. That's why they, of course, have to play this game at Citi Field, which is another baseball stadium. So, the good news for people is that at least you don't have to worry about the crazy kind of dimension and also the ugly camera angle that is at Yankee Stadium. The bad news is this game is going to be taking place at another baseball stadium, although the camera angle at Citi Field is a little bit better in terms of Yankee Stadium, and the dimension is a little bit more forgiving. And for that being said, I wonder would that actually work against NYCFC, because, with the dimension being a little bit different at Citi Field than at Yankee Stadium, and there's no doubt that the dimension does play a huge part in terms of why NYCFC have been having a very good home record, because most teams just cannot adjust in terms of playing in a miniature style of pitch that is Yankee Stadium. I wonder would that actually play a big factor to what NYCFC has. And then in many ways, for NYCFC, this is kind of their own undoing with the fact that they decided to play all their game at Yankee Stadium, and that because they have to share their tenure with the New York Yankees, and that if there is kind of a conflict in terms of the schedule, obviously the Yankees gets the priority because they own the building after all, and they even have their name after the building. That's why now they, of course, create this kind of mess, and that it kind of feels like this is going to be just a neutral ground for NYCFC now that they, of course, have to play at Citi Field in a game in a stadium that, as I mentioned, it's going to be different dimension than it is at Yankee Stadium. And also, it's a stadium that they have rarely played at. The last time they played at Citi Field was actually in 2017 when they drew 2-2 against the Columbus Crew, and that was, I believe, the last game of the regular season where they, of course, have to once again play at a different stadium that is not named Yankee Stadium because of the whole scheduling issue. Now, the other thing to look out for this game is that whether or not if Altidore is going to be available in this game. Now, in the last game, Altidore wasn't available for TFC, and it seemed like they kind of really missed his presence and that they didn't really create that much in regular time until in extra time they basically just completely exploded, and that it was also due to the part that DC just kind of completely collapsed in extra time. But, if Altidore is not available in this game, then that's definitely going to be a big loss for TFC because, we've seen throughout the season when Altidore and Pozuelo is not on the same pitch in a game, they're just not the same in terms of their attacking strength. And the final thing to look out in this game is that NYCFC have never been in the conference final. This is basically as far as they got, and that last year they, of course, lost to Atlanta in the conference semifinals. So, NYCFC have a chance to make some history in this game. But the thing is, they're going to have to get by TFC, which is a team that, when you look at the last 5 matches, TFC kind of had a little bit success against NYCFC. The last match, they drew 1-1 against NYCFC at Yankee Stadium. Then earlier this season, it was TFC with a 4-0 thrashing of NYCFC. NYCFC did win 3-2 against TFC, but that was 2018 when TFC was just god-awful. Then, of course, they won 2-1 against TFC at home before TFC once again beating them 4-0 back in 2017. NYCFC home record is 11-5-1, and it's one of the best home record in the league. While TFC road record is 4-7-6, which is one of the worst road record in the league. So, you could say that the odds must be in favor of NYCFC, but like I said, with the fact that this game is played at a different stadium and with the soccer dimension is different, you wonder, is that going to play a big pivotal role in terms of this game, and that whether or not if this is going to be really favorite TFC, knowing the fact that NYCFC will have to adjust the way that they usually play at home. And the other thing that is also I want to say is that when you look at this team and you look at especially on the attacking end, there isn't really a lot of playoff experience on the attacking end. I mean, guys like Matrita and Aber, who was just bought this season, it's going to be interesting to see how will they do in the playoffs, and can they have that same kind of impact that they had in the regular season to now in the postseason. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting match, and that I definitely can see TFC winning this one because they have proven before that they can go into a tough environment and able to get something out of the game. The thing that I do worry about TFC is that there's always this question of when they, of course, either have a lead and have a chance to win the game, they literally or they usually blow that opportunity. And we saw it in the last game where they were on the verge of getting a big win against DC and they blew it late. And thankfully, if it wasn't for the outburst that they have in extra time, who knows how that game would have ended up, and that maybe TFC wouldn't even be in this place. So that's the thing I do worry about this team, is that they just got to make sure they finish their chances when there's pivotal moment, and that when they are leading in the game, they better make sure they don't blow those lead and actually get the job done so they can move on into the conference final. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Seattle versus RSL. So 5 key things to look out for this game is that in the last 5 meetings between both of these teams at CenturyLink Field has been decided by just 1 goal. So this has really been a very competitive game with both teams, only separated by 1 goal. Although Seattle, for the last 5 games, I think they have won all of those 1 goal decider at CenturyLink Field except for one of those games, and that happened a couple of years ago when RSL did go to CenturyLink Field and grab a 1-0 winner. But the other thing to look out for in this game is that Seattle by far has more talent in the arsenal than RSL has. I mean, we've been saying with RSL, talk about one of the biggest weaknesses this team has is they don't really have a lot of talent gap. And this is no disrespect to Albert Rusnak or Jefferson Savarino or even DeMar Krylak in terms of what they can do. But if you compare them to Seattle's attack with the likes of Nico Ladero, Raul Ruidiaz, and Jordan Morris, yeah, that's a huge gulf in difference in terms of the quality that both of these teams has. Now, the other thing to look out for is Seattle going to get Ronaldo for the last time in their history? And that I know this term Ronaldo has been a very kind of typical term to explain when a team just gets raw multiple chances because Ronaldo just stand on his head. And in the last game, it was pretty clear that Portland found out that they just got Ronaldo for the last time in their club history, as Ronaldo made some very big save in that game to not only make sure he keep his team to potentially win the game, but also keeping his career alive and making sure he has one more game left in his career. And that the other question in this game is this going to be the last ever game we're going to see Nick Ronaldo play if RSL aren't able to move on into the conference final? Now, the other thing that is to look out for is that Seattle have not lost a playoff match since 2013, and I believe they currently have the longest streak in terms of not losing in a playoff match at home at 13 games. And for those of you thinking, well, didn't they lose a playoff match last year against the Timbers? Well, yes, they technically got knocked out in that game, and they technically lost that match. They didn't really lose it in terms of, if you look at the scoreline of this, and that it was actually the Sounders that able to 1-2-1 in that game, and that game actually gone into a penalty kick shootout, and that's when Seattle basically lost that. So it depends on what you kind to interpret in terms of a playoff match that Seattle has lost at home, but theoretically, in terms of they actually lose the match after 90 minutes, they haven't done that since 2013. Now, the last thing to look out for this game is that can RSL show that they do indeed have that match winner in Krylak, Savarino, and Rusnak, and etc. And that we've seen throughout the season that despite the fact that this RSL team does not create a lot of chances, they always tends to have that moment where they score that crucial goal and score that just out of nowhere kind of goal in them to win the game. And it's been either DeMar Krylak, Jefferson Savarino, as it was the case in the last game, Albert Rusnak, and I even should throw in Bofo Salcedo into that mix too, because he also have scored a couple of crucial late golazo to give RSL the win throughout the regular season. But despite that, I think there's a lot of people that still kind of don't believe that is going to always happen. And you wonder, is that going to be the case in the playoff too? And that can they continue to do that? Because obviously this team is not going to create a lot of chances. And that they have also shown that they have been pretty good in terms of making the limited chances that they had, and that the question is, can they of course continue that, and that will they have that match winner? And the other thing that I also want to add into this game is that I think if Seattle can jump early in this game, I have a feeling there's no doubt that Seattle is going to be able to hold on and win this game. I mean, I doubt this is going to be like what happened last week where, when Seattle jumped out to a 2-0 lead and everybody thought, okay, it's done, and then Dallas, of course, come back. I don't think that's going to happen to RSL, mainly because I'm pretty sure that can't happen twice to Seattle, and that the Sounders probably learned their lesson from last time. Just, when you're 2-0 up, you got to make sure you don't just take your foot off the gas and continue to try to pound your opponent. And that I think if the Sounders does go up big early in the game, they'll probably make sure they'll just completely kill this game and not allow RSL get into it. And that for RSL, I really think they cannot afford to go down early and find themselves in a hole, because this season, it's when you've seen them go down early in the game, they haven't really been proven that they have been able to come back in the game and able to pull off a winner in that. So, for RSL, they just cannot afford to go down early. And you wonder, would that kind of mindset means that they're going to go a little bit defensive in this game and allow the Sounders to try to break them down. And it's kind of a dangerous game when you have those kind of front three with Ruidiaz, Ladero, and Morris kind of breathing down your neck to try to break down a bunker like that. But you never know. RSL has been relatively good at times when they try to bunker on the road and try to hold on to either a lead or trying to get a result in this game. But the only difference is that they cannot not just bunker and expect that they can, of course, get a draw out of this game and that they'll move on to the next round. They have to win these games. And in terms of the last 5 match for both of these teams, RSL, of course, won 3-0 against Seattle. Seattle did win 1-0 against RSL, but RSL did win 2-0 against the Sounders before RSL did win their lone win out of the last 5 matches at CenturyLink Field, 1-0 over the Sounders, and then RSL, of course, win 2-0 against the Sounders. So RSL has been pretty successful in the last 5 matches against the Sounders, but here's the problem. Most of those wins that they had is at Rio Tinto Stadium, and this game is not at Rio Tinto Stadium. This game is going to be at CenturyLink Field. And then when you look at the home records for Seattle, it's been almost flawless with winning 11 out of the 16 games that they have so this season at home. While RSL away record, we always talk about how they just always have a poor away record. This season, it's definitely gone a lot better than what we saw in the last 2 years, but it's still not good, with only winning four games, drawing 4, and losing 9 this season on the road. But that being said, I am now going to be switching board and look at the last 2 games in terms of the conference semifinal playoffs. But yeah, next up is Atlanta and the Union. So 5 things to look forward in terms of this playoff matchup is that both teams are certainly suffer a bit of an injury bug coming into this game. Robinson, who did not play in the last game against New England, he is still questionable of whether or not if he's going to be fit enough to play in this one. And Michael Parker's most likely is going to be out for this game because, he did subbed up with just a very, very serious shoulder injury, and that we still don't know, did he dislocated his shoulder or the fact that he broke his shoulder and that he's going to be out for the season. And if that, of course, is the case, then yeah, he's not going to be available in this game or any future game for Atlanta, and that it's definitely going to be very disappointed and sad to see him kind of end his luxurious playing career in a way where in his final game of his career, he suffered a nasty kind of injury. But, the bigger question and the bigger problem for Atlanta is now who exactly is going to fill in for Parker's injury. Because, before Parker's got injured, we already knew that this Atlanta backline was already very thin and that they don't really have a lot of option in terms of that backline. Well, now Parker's went down. Who exactly is going to be his replacement? And I can only think of one name that could potentially be his replacement, and that one name is going to be Florentin Pogba, who I think he's really the only natural center back that this Atlanta team have left in the depth chart. And for a guy that usually don't start a lot of games and a guy that usually come off the bench in a game, yeah, that's definitely not a reliable option in terms of trying to replace the leadership of what Michael Parker has brought to this backline and brought to this team. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see how the defense Atlanta is going to kind of hold up in this game. Well, for the Union, they also have a couple of injury bug, although their injury bug comes from the attack where Bedoya is going to potentially be out for this game because he did suffer that hamstring injury, or as I say, he re-injured his hamstring injury that he suffered on prior to decision day, and you wonder if he is going to most likely going to be out for this game after he came out with that injury in the last match. And Kasper Schmeichel, he is still questionable in this game. He did not play in the last game between the Union and the Red Bulls, and I said in the last game with Schmeichel not playing in that game was definitely a big loss, although technically it kind of wasn't, because it seemed like the Union was able to find a way to score goals even though they don't have their leading goal scored in this team. But I just have a feeling that, even though they did do a good job in terms of still finding different goal scorer besides their main goal scorer, Chibilko, I just don't know they can do it 2 games in a row. And that I feel like if there is a time when the Union really need to have a goal, either if they're down late in the game or the fact that they have a chance to potentially win this game against Atlanta, Chibilko is the guy that they can rely on, because this season, not only has he scored a lot of goals, but he has scored a lot of key goals. That is the difference between the Union actually winning those games or drawing those games or even losing those games. So they really need Chibilko back into this game if they want to, make up for that absence of Bedoya. Now, this is also the first time that the Union have found themselves in the second round of the playoffs, so this is completely uncharted territory for the Union, and I'm kind of eager to see whether or not if they're going to make more history by advancing to the conference final for the first time in their history. The Union, of course, were one of the few teams that didn't lose to Atlanta this season, although, the game earlier this season at Atlanta, that was during the time when Atlanta was having a very bad run and were kind of stumbling out of the gate, and Philly kind of took advantage of that by getting a 1-1 draw. And then later that year, they were caught out of an Atlanta team that just looked incredibly tired because they have played so many games in a short span of time, and they were able to win that one too. Now, this Atlanta team is completely fresh, and yes, they are missing a couple of key center backs in the back line and a key fullback there, but still, this is probably the strongest Atlanta team and the most fresh Atlanta team that they're going to be facing. And, oh, by the way, this game is going to be on the road, which, theoretically, when you look at the last couple of matches, if you not include the last 2 matchup this season, the Union have actually not done very well against Atlanta, and that it's Atlanta the one that has been doing much better against the Union when they, of course, face off each other, besides the last 2 match of this season. Now, the other thing to watch out for in this game is that Andre Blake just simply cannot afford to have another bad game in this. So, Blake, when you look at the last game, there was no doubt that he was probably the worst player for the Union, and he really kind of got lucky. The fact that his team was able to win this game and that he got away with conceding those 3 shocking goals to the Red Bulls. The first goal that he conceded, you could argue he probably could have made a better save on that, and that he probably could have parried that out, and that he kind of got a hand into it. But the second and third goal he conceded was just some very unlike thing that Blake would be doing, where, in the second goal that he conceded was basically misjudge a corner and allow one of the Red Bull players to hit it into the empty net. And then the third goal he could see was a miscommunication between him and also, who was it? I think it was Santos, and that they kind of collide to each other, and that led to another chance for the Red Bulls to hit it into the empty net, which they did exactly that. He cannot afford to have the same mistake in this game. And in fact, I'm going to also say that if the Union go down 3-1 in this game, like the last match, there is no way they're coming back in this game. I mean, Atlanta is not the Red Bulls where they can just give up 3-1 leads like it's nothing, and that they just always tend to blow leads at home. This team, when they have the leads, they usually do not blow it, and that, if the Union does find themselves 3-1 down in this game, I can pretty much just say it's game, set, and match, because I guarantee you that Atlanta is going to not only hold on to that lead, but they might even add in a couple of more goals just to make sure that they, of course, are able to win that game. But most importantly, Atlanta just don't blow leads in games, at least for the last couple of seasons. And then the final thing to look out for in this game is that will Pity Martinez actually play in this game? So I still have not got the answer of why exactly Pity Martinez was not starting in the last game, and why did the board decide to bench him. And the question is he going to be playing in this game? Or albeit is he actually going to get some same game action? Because I'm pretty sure that, throughout the game, they didn't show any footage of what Pity Martinez's reaction is and how was he very frustrated to find out that once Atlanta used all three of their sub that he wasn't going to be on the game, and that maybe once again he's going to kick off in the bench area, or kick a bench in front of him because of his anger of not able to involve in the playoff run. We don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to be in the starting 11, and if he's not in the starting 11, the question is he actually going to be coming off the bench in this game? Because I still don't get why the board decided to sub him off, even though, I know he hasn't had the best season, but at least down the stretch, he has shown what he can do with this Atlanta team. Now, in terms of the head-to-head matchup, as I mentioned, Philly was able to win 3-1 against Atlanta, and that was actually the first time they ever beat Atlanta in these head-to-head matchup, and that there's actually only been 6 meetings between both of these teams. The prior meeting, it was a 1-1 draw between Atlanta and Philly. That was earlier in the season, as I mentioned. Then Atlanta was able to win 2-0 against the Union, won 3-1 against Philly, won 3-0 against the Union, and drew 2-2 against the Union on the road. So technically, Atlanta has never lost to Philly at home, and a lot of people will say that Atlanta is going to be favorites in this game because of that, and also the home record in this game. But don't be surprised that the Union, if they can eliminate their defensive mistake that they made in the last game, and if that attack can do exactly what they did to the Red Bulls in the last game, this team can definitely pull off a bit of an upset over Atlanta United. I mean, I know a lot of people, when they look at this matchup, people is just going to say Atlanta's going to win this because, Philly, they play a 120-minute game on Sunday, and that fatigue is going to be an issue coming into this one on a short rest. But the other thing is, Philly, there's been times that when they of course are a team that is considered one of the best, if not the best team in the Eastern Conference, and when they of course do turn it on, they absolutely could become that kind of team, and a team that just nobody can stop in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see how this game, of course, is going to go. But finally, last but not least, and I'm pretty sure you guys been waiting for this, and, for those of you that did not actually go into the description below to basically click on or not the description below, but the comments below, and click on the timestamp where you get to this point of me talking about El Tráfico in the conference semifinal, then I want to thank you for your loyal support in terms of watching this video, and that I'm guessing by doing that you will pretty much got a lot of inside information of what has happened in the last free preview. So if you are a person that just click on the timestamp and want me to talk about this game, don't forget to actually try to watch the first 10 or first 20 minutes of this video, because I did give some inside information of the last free game, even though I know this is the game that is the most anticipated, and that I think the hype surround this game is just so big that I mean, this could really break the record in terms of pretty much the most view playoff game in MLS history. I mean, this rivalry, it's hard to believe that despite the fact that it's only been 2 years old, it's been becoming one, if not the hottest and probably the most intense rivalry in MLS. And I know a lot of Seattle and Portland fans are not going to be happy with me saying that, and that they think the Cascadia Derby is still the most intense, which, they definitely have a lot of argument for that, because the Cascadia Derby not only has that intensity, but also have the history, which this game technically does not, because it's only been 2 years old. But I just feel like in terms of the competitiveness, and in terms of if you like goals in a game, and if you like just some of the most entertaining soccer in MLS, this is literally the game to see. Because, while I'm going to mention 5 things to look out for in this game, I could easily just put 10 things to look out in this game, because there's just so many storylines coming into this game. But I'm going to try to talk about some of the main storyline in this game because I don't want to talk about this game, and I don't want to unfairly just give like 20 minutes attention on this game and only like maybe 5 or 10 minute attention on the other game, even though this is probably the game that everybody is gonna be watching. But in terms of the first thing to look out for is obviously, can LAFC finally beat the Galaxy? I mean, I think when you look at the previous 5 matches, something tells me this one might be finally the one that I can say that maybe LAFC might have an edge over the Galaxy. I mean, I kind of said that in coming into this season because of the way LAFC have looked, and then the Galaxy and Zlatan decided to defy that logic and able to get 1 win and 1 draw out of that game. But you just look at the last El Tráfico, which ended 3-3, and that I think if it wasn't for Carlos Vela did not able to have to come off after 70th minute, and if it wasn't for Bingham making some incredible save in that game, LAFC could have easily won that one. And say what you say about the scoreline, when you actually watch that last El Tráfico, LAFC dominate pretty much 70 out of the 90 minutes of that game. Like, once the Galaxy went up 3-1 in this game, they absolutely shut everything down, and it was kind of a miracle, the fact that somehow in some way they were able to despite the fact, shut everything down and trying to kind of survive this onslaught that LAFC put, which anytime when you try to park the bus against LAFC and trying to put an onslaught, trying to survive an onslaught of pressure on them, most of the time you are not going to come out with a victory out of that. And that was kind of one of the rare times that the Galaxy kind of come out with a victory out of that, despite that onslaught of pressure, even though technically didn't, because it ended up in a free draw. The other thing that is look out for this game is that LAFC themselves also have some key player that is going to be injured in this game. Zimmerman and Marc-Anthony Kaye is not going to be available in this game, so that is pretty much their best defender out for this game, and I wonder, will the Galaxy definitely exploit that kind of defensive weakness? And Marc-Anthony Kaye, which arguably, no doubt, is the best midfielder in the league right now. With him being absent there, you wonder, are they going to lose some of that creativeness that Marc-Anthony Kaye does bring in that midfield? I mean, they still have Latif Blessing as one of the guys that could also be a creative attacking player, but losing Marc-Anthony Kaye is definitely kind of a big loss, because now the pressure is going to really in the hands of Blessing, and that he really needs to step up in terms of trying to be that creative player. Now, the other thing to look out for is that will Zlatan continue to just completely owns this LAFC team. Like, he has scored 8 goals in the last 5 El Tráfico meeting, and it's just safe to say that he just make this LAFC team like his property, and that he just always tend to show up in this big game. Like, he's basically treating this not just any match, but almost like a Champions League final or even a World Cup final, where he wants to not only be in the center of attention, but he want to back up with all that kind of trash talk that he brings coming into this game. And so far, he has done very successful in the last 5 El Tráfico by scoring 8 goals. And, if there's one thing that LAFC fans are always fear, and if there's one thing that LAFC player really always have a nightmare coming into this match, one word only describe that, and that, of course, is Zlatan. I mean, if Zlatan can go off again and had an incredible game, this could be, once again, a long night for LAFC. Now, the other thing to look out is that defense apparently is not a thing in El Tráfico, because 4 of the 5 El Tráfico have featured 4 or more goals combined from both teams. And I have a feeling maybe this one is going to be like that again, because 1, the Galaxy defense is still not very good. And yeah, I know they shut out Minnesota in that game, but it was also kind of part because the Loons just couldn't do anything going on the attack, and that, the Loons kind of helped out that Galaxy defense by making some sloppy passes and being kind of one-dimensional by just crossing the ball every time. Well, you're not going to have that kind of thing with LAFC. Like, LAFC is just going to have so many creative ways to break you down that I really am scared with this Galaxy defense, and that I just don't know how, like, if they can give up at more than or less than 3 goals in this game, it will be a miracle for them, because, you know, with this LAFC team and knowing how they just completely cut open this defense last time, and if it wasn't for Bingham making some crucial save, they could have easily won this game. And I just have a feeling it's going to be the same case again, where Carlos Vela, Diego Rossi, and all those other attacker is going to really just run right on this Galaxy defense that in most games has been pretty non-existent. And then the final thing to look out for this game is that the Galaxy is the only team that is able to win on the road in the last round. I guess that's just kind of a little bit side note, the fact that they're the only team to basically defies the odds that road team cannot win in the playoffs, and you wonder, can this be the case again, where they once again defy the odds of winning at Bank of California Stadium and able to win on the road? I mean, I'm not quite sure, like, if you have to look at this match and if you're betting in this game, obviously I'm pretty sure the betting line says LAFC is heavy favorites coming into this game because they're playing at home against the Galaxy, despite they have never beaten the Galaxy before. But would you think about even putting some betting lines on the Galaxy, because they, of course, have never lost to LAFC, and they have defied the odds once this playoffs by being the only team to win the playoffs. And also, you got Zlatan, who, you know, he's going to probably do some great things in this El Tráfico, and that would you, of course, put some bet line in terms of the Galaxy potentially winning this. Now, in terms of the head-to-head matchup for both of these teams, LAFC and the Galaxy drew 3 in the last match. The Galaxy, of course, won 3-2 against LAFC. Then it was a 1-1 draw between the Galaxy and LAFC, as that was the only match that didn't feature more than 4 goals. The second match of El Tráfico ended in a 2-2 draw in favor of no one, because it was a draw, and it was a game when LAFC were up 2-0 in that game, and the Galaxy came back late to draw 2-2. And then the first ever El Tráfico arguably goes down as one of the greatest match in MLS regular season history, as that was the match when Zlatan basically introduced himself in MLS and scored 2 absolute golazo to win that one 4-3 against LAFC. Now, in terms of the home record for LAFC, it's 13-3-1. That one lone loss came earlier or later in the season when they lose to Minnesota at home. While the Galaxy, their road record is 5-2-10. But to be honest, I don't think we should really look at home or road record when you look at this game. And that whenever you have a rivalry game, stat lines doesn't usually matter. It's all about the competition and just about the aggressiveness of both teams want to win. And I just have a feeling with the way that both of these teams are just kind of in a heavyweight matchup, whoever wants this the most is going to win this game. And that I won't be surprised if LAFC wants the most, because they want to basically put a stamp that they are the greatest MLS team ever to play in a single season. While for the Galaxy, they want to put a stamp in terms of being still the only team to able to win El Tráfico and once again shock the world by knocking down LAFC, and this time knocking out LAFC off the playoffs in their own backyard. So yeah, either way, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 4 games and what your prediction is for these 4 games. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.